Hi, my name is Mia Carr, and I'm going to give my informative speech today for my speech class. Okay, I have a question for you. What do Sean P. Diddy Combs, Julia Child, and Jackie Onassis all have in common? Well, I'll tell you. They're all students of Montessori. Montessori philosophy is a basic educational philosophy that involves following the child. Every child has a natural instinct to learn and grow, and does this through using his senses. In the world of Montessori education, the child is given freedom within boundaries to explore and choose activities that are interesting and appropriate for their developmental level. In a Montessori classroom, the environment belongs to the child and is totally conducive to his or her development, with very little influence by the teacher except for establishing boundaries. P. Donahue Shortage writes about the sensitive periods that were identified during a child's development. Montessori believed that these periods are critical in a child's development, as the child unconsciously knows when it is time to master a new skill. Spatial order is one of these sensitive periods. Children feel the need for a routine and for order, makes them feel secure. In Montessori, the routine is learned through the use of the materials. Each activity is chosen from a shelf, the work is used, and put back on the shelf. There is a cycle of completion in the routine. For example, if a child is working with a pouring or a sorting activity, they would take the tray from the shelf, take it to a table, work with the materials, and return it to the table, or the shelf rather, just as they found it. This basic guideline lays a foundation for the routine of order and should be highly encouraged during this sensitive period. So the next time you're on your way out the door and your child wants to stop and line up all the shoes in a certain order, take a deep breath, take your time, and allow them to do that, because it's critical to their development of spatial order at that time. The sensory period involves a child's focus, in which he or she explores the senses. He or she wants to touch, listen, and smell things in order to find out more about them. The sensory period is fostered throughout the Montessori classroom. For example, when introducing the alphabet to the children in a Montessori classroom, we use sandpaper letters. These letters are the shape of the letter, and they're rough like sandpaper. So when the child is learning the sound of the letter and the name of the letter, they can also feel how the letter should look and feel when they're writing it. This also helps the child to understand the concept between concrete and abstract. They have a concrete feel for what the letter M should look like, instead of just seeing it on a piece of paper and saying, that's a letter M. Children learn at their own pace. They explore the work or the material in a Montessori classroom for as long as they need to. These are periods of intense focus that are important in the sensory learning period. Freedoms within the classroom are important for the children to be able to learn at their own pace. In Michael Dorr's article in Volume 1 of the 2007 edition of Montessori Life, he points out that the freedoms are necessary in the Montessori classroom. Freedom of movement is important because they're children and they have a lot of energy, they need to move around. It also helps with the perceptual motor development. Purposeful movement creates body awareness, spatial awareness, and that lends to a sense of order. Freedom of choice of activities is given to the child for a chance to work on their tasks that are of interest to him or her at the time. Remember, children unconsciously know when it's time to learn a new skill. Freedom of choice in the Montessori classroom is possible because of the wide variety of materials. The room itself is laid out so the materials are grouped in learning styles. For instance, math, language, practical life, and sensory. Because children learn different skills at different times, they are free to move throughout the classroom on their own based on their learning needs at the time. The room serves ages 3 to 6 years old, which further dictates the need for a variety of materials. The multi-age groupings in a Montessori classroom allow for higher levels of overall development in children as compared to those in a single-age classroom. In Angela Lillard's book, Montessori, The Science Behind the Genius, she writes that Montessori encourages learning from peers, both in imitation and in peer tutoring. Because the children and materials basically serves as the tutors or the teachers, the role of the teacher is that of a director or directress and observer. The teacher sets the boundaries of the room. He or she also demonstrates or directs the child through the use of the material, making sure to complete the cycle and setting the example for the complete cycle for order. The director or directress then becomes an observer, paying close attention to when that child has mastered the skill. Once the child has mastered the skill, the director again teaches that child the next skill level. So through this style of education, a child can learn to work to develop himself or herself as an adult, never losing the natural instinct to learn and grow. Just think about that little company we call Google and the 2 men who started it. You guessed it, they were Montessori students, still learning and growing, probably like they were when they were kids. That's the thing I love about Montessori. Seeing a child explore the wonders of new things, and then that light bulb moment when it all starts to make sense. That's why when I finish my degree, I want to return to the Montessori classroom so I can experience the wonders of children learning. Thank you. Bye, Ma.